Welcome to Lawless in the Morning. Yesterday we did a story in the Winnipeg Free Press talking about the greatest Manitoba-produced hockey player of all time. I went through a process. I contacted former journalists who worked in the province, current guys that write about hockey in the province, some guys that write about hockey outside of the province. I talked to a former NHL player who born and raised in Manitoba, and ran a bunch of names by them and talked about a bunch of different things. The key was who was the most dominant player at his position during his career. And we're getting to a point where Jonathan Toews is starting to push Bobby Clarke and Terry Sawchuk, but Sawchuk still stands alone. A 20-year career. The numbers were incredible, and he won 5 Stanley Cups, 4 Vezina trophies, was an all-star 11 times. That's a first or second team all-star selected at the end of the season 11 times during his career. His record for shutouts, I think, was 103, lasted for 39 years, just broken by Marty Brodeur in the last few seasons. Sawchuk still stands alone. Now, what Toews has done in a very short amount of time, he's won the Conn Smythe, he's won the Frank Selke, he's won 2 Stanley Cups, and then you take into account his international record. Sawchuk has no international record. They didn't play. Our professionals, our NHLers, didn't play in international hockey during his time. Toews, there was no World Juniors. Toews has 2 World Juniors, 2 gold medals we all know about, and a World Championship as well. So that really puts him, if he can continue to stack up the numbers he's stacked up in the NHL, plus the international career, he'll have a real case for pushing Sawchuk out of the way at some point in time. Bobby Clarke, 3 Hart trophies, 2 Stanley Cups, the Masterton Trophy, the Lester V. Pearson Award. He was a fantastic player in his own right. And Clarke is really, we don't talk about him on the same level as the other greats of his time because, his time was diminished because of what we considered the Broad Street Bullies, the Flyers that he played for. But don't be mistaken, Bobby Clarke was a fantastic player, had over 100 points 3 times in his career. Like I mentioned, 3 Hart trophies. That's the most valuable player in the National Hockey League 3 times. Not many players do that. That's Wayne Gretzky, Bobby Orr stuff right there. So, Bobby Clarke, a very, very good player during his career. One guy I missed, Tommy Johnson, and a friend of mine sent me a note last night. I've gotten multiple notes about it. He won a bunch of cups with the Bruins and also won a Norris Trophy as a defenseman, and that means he was the very best at his position for a season. So Tom Johnson should have gotten a little bit more recognition in our Free Press story on the best Manitoban ever. However, none of that changes. Terry Sawchuk's still the best player this province has ever produced. To bite or not to bite. That's the word that Andrew Shaw bit Victor Hedman in the game last night. And I heard multiple players after talking about, incidents where, there are times, when it's, if a player puts his hand on your face in a scrum and that hand gets close to your eye, biting is really, it's not considered it's not considered something taboo. Not in that situation. Player wants to gouge your eye. According to many players, it's fair game to bite him. Now, Shaw bit Hedman on the side in a scrum, and I'm not sure why he felt it necessary to bite Hedman, other than the fact that Hedman is a skyscraper. He's huge, and in a scrum, it's probably not a good place to be close to the clutches of Victor Hedman. Don Cherry made a pretty interesting point last night. He said that he thinks Brent Seabrook is the best defenseman in the National Hockey League. And while I don't agree with that, it does bring up an interesting point. Duncan Keith right now is playing like the best defenseman in the NHL. But is he allowed to do what he wants to do if not for Seabrook? And it's the same thing in Nashville. You've got Shea Weber there. Roman Josi does a lot of the heavy lifting so that Seabrook can pound that big cannon that he has. And it's, the duality of the two players is important. They go together and they let the one guy do a lot of the big things that he wants to do and that we notice more than anyone else. Kind of a number one and a number two thing. And I think that, you can make the case that Brent Seabrook is among the very best number two defenseman in the National Hockey League. The same thing going on over with Tampa, too. They've got Big Hedman, we talked about, who likes to take the puck and join the rush. He's allowed to do a lot of that because he plays with Anton Stralman, who's been brilliant in this postseason. That's Lawless in the morning. Have a great day.